fire, there are no bombs around us. And, we have to be so grateful. We sometimes complain so much of the little things that affects us. But when we look at what's happening globally, we truly have to be thankful to be in paradise, as we call it. So this morning we do have a very informative show for you. As you know, the month of October is celebrated as Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and it's a month that really signifies, the disease, breast cancer. The color pink often pops into our minds when we think
Mm-hmm.
of breast cancer, and we often too think of the many women who have one succumbed from breast cancer and those who have survived and continue, fighting the good fight of faith. And so this morning we have with us, and I will introduce them shortly, but what we'll do, we'll take a quick break and then we'll return to, the details of our show here on Health Vibes. Stay tuned, please.
Who say health cannot have vibes? Well, Jolly's Pharmacy is proving you otherwise. With Health Vibes. Every Wednesday morning on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Health Vibes. Education, information, and a bit of humor. And not forgetting lots of vibes. Hosted by Carlton Lango with co-hosts Jacinta Fagan Defoe and Trudy Kristen. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing health and vibes together every Wednesday. So be sure to tune in. Health Vibes every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Introducing Jolly's Pharmacy, brand new website, www.jollies.tm. It's your time to jump the line. Shop now at jollies.tm and have your items delivered in the comfort of your office. No more standing in line. No need to use your lunch hour to shop. Hassle-free shopping, safe and secure. Jollies.tm features rush delivery, 1 hour. In-store pickup, regular delivery, 5 p.m. Cut-off time, 4 p.m. It's your time to jump the line. Visit us at www.jollies.tm. Jollies Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Who say health cannot have vibes? Well, Jolly's Pharmacy is proving you otherwise. With Health Vibes. Every Wednesday morning on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Health Vibes. Education, information, and a bit of humor. And not forgetting lots of vibes. Hosted by Carlton Lango with co-hosts Jacinta Fagan Defoe and Trudy Kristen. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing health and vibes together every Wednesday. So be sure to tune in. Health Vibes every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
And we are back with you on Health Vibes. Of course, as Carlton promised, we always have a very informative and educational show, but interesting as well. We always have that lined up for you, and this morning is no different. We are observing Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and because of that, this morning we are graced with two very special guests, and I will introduce them to you. We have with us this morning the president of the Dominica Cancer Society and a very avid listener and supporter of Health Vibes, if I do say so myself. That's Yvonne Alexander, always on with us on a Wednesday morning. And we also have with us Debbie Jean-Jacques, who is a survivor. And we are very pleased this morning to welcome you ladies to Health Vibes in this very important month of October. So good morning to you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you so very much. Special good morning to members, board of directors and members of the Dominica Cancer Society, and really to the general public. Thank you for having us.
Truly, let me just, before we actually get into the dialogue, let me say this: the walk on Sunday was a great success. I missed you though. I would have been tagging along with you, but I missed
you. Would have left me fine the dust, Carlton.
The sun was brutal. I personally did not walk. I ran.
That's why I know you would have left me. You'd have left me fine the dust.
That chest was the first person to
Right,
arrive. I
I
was just
heard.
at the back of him.
Daddy Chess?
Daddy
Yes,
Chess.
Ah.
yes.
Wow.
So it was Daddy Chess, Cedric Hillier, and
Right.
I.
Right.
Yeah, we
And
were
let's say,
the
wow.
top three
Yeah.
runners at the run at the
At the
walk
walk.
this year. Because when I looked at that sun, I said, "Man, for me to have to be doing that walk, that is going to be too brutal."
So
I'm
you
going to
just
run
ran
this."
it.
And it was under the cliff was really really tough,
Yes.
because from since you get to West Indies Oil, it is hot sun until you
sun.
get
Until
around
you
by
get to
my board.
Concolay. Yeah.
When you get off my board, it's sun again. But I thank God for the weather still, and we made it. And I say that this year was awesome. I saw lots of Adventist people
Mhm.
Right.
who has had difficulties in the past attending the walk because of the time
Mhm.
on a Saturday, and they really came out, and they
On
big on health and
Sunday.
wellness, so they really came out and they participated. And I think all in all, we saw a big support from the corporate community.
Yes,
Many
I saw that.
companies rallied their staff
Mhm.
together, and
Mhm.
was part and parcel of the activity. So
I did
again,
see.
yes,
I did see on Emo News that the turnout was amazing.
Right.
The turnout was amazing. So we saw so many Dominicans turn out in support of breast cancer awareness and in support of fighting, this disease. I really was heartened to see the number of people. And Carlton, you're correct. In the
Yes.
brutal heat,
yes.
the turnout still
Yes,
was
yes.
was amazing.
And particularly I want to really highlight the older persons who came out on the walk. We're talking
Mhm.
about people 65 years and above, who really in spite of the scorching sun, really showed their physical solidarity and support
Yeah.
to the cause. And so that was really a sea of pink.
Both in Roseau
Yes.
and Portsmouth.
Yes.
Yes.
And again, yes,
Yes.
Portsmouth, we want to also highlight that group there too. But truly, breast cancer still remains a major concern for us here in Dominica, the world by extension. I want to begin with the president, asking her, um, how concerned should we be as it relates to breast cancer? Have we seen a reduction in the numbers as it relates to one, clinical diagnosis, and two, as it relates to mortality rates?
Okay. Interesting question. I want to set the record straight and say that up to yesterday, at a particular discussion with officials of the Ministry of Health, the Dominica Cancer Society was asking about why is it so difficult for us to get data,
The statistics.
the numbers.
Mhm.
Okay. I can say to you that from where we sit at the Dominica Cancer Society, because of the work we do, and part of what we do is provide financial assistance to individuals in need to meet the cost of treatment. So because of that, many people come to our office. So these are some of the records that we would have of only those who would come to us for financial assistance. And on the basis of that, and we also have a hospital support team. That team meets those who are going to receive chemotherapy and help them to navigate through the entire process. So because of that, we also become familiar with a lot of them. We have a psychosocial support team, and people are referred to us. So we follow through with these individuals, supporting them emotionally and all of that. So because of that, we become familiar with the many. And I can say to you, just on the basis of that, we are seeing many more individuals coming to us for financial assistance. We get to know them personally and know what the situation is because of the financial assistance we provide and the information that they share with us. We are aware that we do have many cases of individuals who it's early detection and these people receive treatment and they thrive and they survive. But we are very concerned about some who are still diagnosed very late stages, 3, stage 4, and they are struggling by the time they are receiving treatment. They're struggling for their lives. and they do succumb, and unfortunately sometimes they succumb within a few years of the diagnosis. So we are aware of that. We are aware, based on statements made by various officials of the Ministry of Health, that we have a serious problem of mortality, cancer mortality in Dominica. Breast cancer mortality in the case of women, prostate cancer mortality in the case of men, and other cancers that are now emerging. We are concerned about the fact that one of these public officials, Ministry of Health public officials, indicated in an address to the public that we are now seeing a different kind of cancer. So yes, in the past, we encouraged and advised women to do your breast self-examination and feel for a lump. Now he is speaking about there is an inflammatory breast cancer that does not present
Manifest.
itself as a lump. So, and it's occurring, and that's another concern we have, in younger ages, 20s, 30s, 40s. And these are not the age ranges that would normally be recommended to have mammograms. Okay, so here it is. You can't rule it out from breast self-examination. It's inflammatory. They are too young to have mammograms. And so we need, no matter how much people think they are, they're exhausted by hearing us talk about breast cancer and make them aware of what the situation is, we will keep doing that, because we are also seeing people who would have known that there was a problem, whether out of fear or whatever, did nothing about it for a few years. And by the time they present themselves to healthcare officials, something is popping out of place and all that kind. We have those type of situations. We're very concerned about it. We want people to know that breast cancer is survivable if caught early. And so anything you feel that feels unusual and abnormal, we should know our bodies enough that we go and seek help, So that's what I can say on the situation at it.
Some very interesting comments, and specifically as it relates to the absence of the data.
Right.
And we've spoken about this before, for several other concerns that we've had, and I just want to reiterate publicly the need for us to do better with our health system and the presentation of health statistics to the general public for action that is necessary. You see, the thing is, statistics precipitate action. That is what the statistics. That is what statistics are for. And I remember my supervisor when I was in the Ministry of Health, the late Paul Ricketts, was such a big advocate for that. The statistics need to be presented. So in the absence of that, of course, you can speak about what you're seeing and what you're seeing, right? Anecdotal evidence, and what you're seeing, could be a very clear picture of what the statistics would show, but the statistics are still so necessary. And then the comment about exhaustion that some people may feel when hearing the message over and over. Carlton, we've spoken about this before. Health awareness is something that you can never stop, because although some may say they're exhausted of hearing you, but there are some who will never have heard. And you need to keep reaching out to get to everyone. So it's so important. Carlton, you remember when we spoke of prostate cancer awareness, it was the same thing. People might say, we've heard that before, but there will be one person that will be their first time, and we could save a life from them hearing the information,
right?
For that first time. So, I like that you're pressing on, because it's so necessary.
I really wanted to comment too on the issue of education.
Right.
And maybe too, I mean, I know that there have been quite a lot of information that has been given in recent time. I must say, particularly in you being the president, I think you've done a remarkable job in terms of advocacy, branding the association, and even in terms of awareness and promotion. But I think the issue too may be, how is the information translated to the general public.
Right.
I remember when doing, like, for example, sexual reproductive health,
Mhm.
showing someone what a syphilis lesion looks like and telling someone about syphilis is two different impacts, right? So maybe even having photos, graphic photos of what a cancer breast looks like,
Right.
particularly in its very late stage,
Right.
irrespective of age,
Mhm.
what it does to an individual, not just from a physical standpoint, but also from a gender standpoint. You know, you as a woman, women generally cherish their breast. You would look at any movie and somebody meets a woman naked and it's her breast first. She hides, and then subsequently she may put her hand on her vagina. But generally, the breast is
Breast.
so important to a typical woman. And you look at the transformation, the physiological changes that occurs, particularly when metastasis has occurred. So I think sometimes, especially when we do public health education, not that you want to scare people, but you really want to show people the evidence base. This is what this disease
Yes.
does if it is not intercepted very early and is not cared for. Because I think many people know about the symptoms, the
Right.
inverted nipples, the orange
Peu d'orange.
yeah,
The
right.
nipple, you're talking about the skin
Yes,
that's
yes,
for
right.
the
inflammatory.
secretion and
Mm.
all of that. Lots of people know that. We will still talk about it,
Right.
but I think sometimes too we still have that false sense of security. That may not be me. It cannot be me. I'm too young. I am, I think I take good care of myself. I have a good diet and I exercise. And you look at some of the risk factors and you might even say, well, I don't fall
don't
in
eat.
that risk
Yes.
factor. So
drink
therefore, what I'm
alcohol.
feeling or what I'm experiencing or even seeing may not necessarily be a case that should be investigated. So I think we really the aim is um, any sign that you see is urgent enough for an investigation.
Definitely.
Any sign that you see that were not there before
Yeah.
or you've never noticed and you've seen it, you should get it examined. I wanted to ask you, though, based on, because you don't have formal statistics, but based on the walk-ins that comes to your office often enough, what is the demographic in terms of age that you might have been noticing over the couple of years?
Okay. The demographics is younger demographics right now. So about 5-6 years ago, the majority of individuals who would present themselves to us for any form of financial assistance would be probably a late 40s, 50s, 60s. We even have 70s and 80s. Right now, the demographics is the average age would be in the 30s.
Wow.
Right now. We've had individuals who have succumbed to breast cancer in the 20s. So that's early. 30s. We are seeing quite a number of 30 somethings and 40 something year olds presenting with, that's women, predominantly women. When the men do come, it's prostate, it may be lung, it may be colon.
Oh yeah, colorectal.
But for the women, it's predominantly breast and the
Cervical.
cervical, which is so
Preventable as well.
preventable and so on. And for the men, it's predominantly prostate. And we have some colon in between there. So, but in terms of the age demographics, we are very concerned. And when I'm talking about, these are 40 something year olds that succumb. So it's late diagnosis. These are early to mid 50 year olds that succumb. So again, some way, somehow it's late detection. Yes.
Yeah, and that's why breast cancer is the discussion is so important, or the awareness is so important, because you're hearing of that demographic, that's people in their productive years. So when you have that being removed from the society,
Right.
of course that is a major concern. You have the women, the age group you're talking about, childbearing age,
The effects on families.
right.
the
So
effects on the
it's a
workforce.
complete,
Yes.
it's a complete ripple effect when we have people who have to deal with a diagnosis like that, or late diagnosis,
Right.
in that particular demographic. What I had a question about the diagnosis aspect now, for the people who are coming in. How were they diagnosed? What did they what is the, once again, from what you're seeing,
Mhm.
what spurred them to check? Are you seeing people who were doing a regular screening being diagnosed?
Yes.
Or are you seeing people who, they had symptoms and that's when they were diagnosed?
Unfortunately, the majority of people we speak to had some sort of symptom.
Okay.
And and that is critical for us because we keep saying to people, the same way you celebrate a birthday every year, you pay if you have driver's insurance, if you have a driver's license, if you have whatever. There are certain things we do on an annual basis.
True.
There are even things, to my mind, that are not even very, very, very important, but we do it. Carnival is coming, and we're going to have our bikini wax
Costume, and
things like
and
that.
have our costumes and
But and I remember saying to some women, things like a pap smear is less painful than a bikini wax. A breast self-examination is a very simple thing to do. And if you're uncertain, I remember Alia was saying you can Google and get really very good um, videos
Yes,
of
and
how to do a
images.
proper one. Or you can present yourself at any healthcare facility, in your community, and ask the nurse there to show you how to do a proper breast self-examination in the case of women and men too, because not very long ago we've had some men presenting with breast cancer here in Dominica. Yes, so we do have some men who have been diagnosed with breast cancer here in Dominica. So we're saying all that to say cancer is so serious, you really can't wait to get a symptom. We have to make screening part of our annual calendar of activities, whatever it is that you do during the year. Whether it's when we just have the awareness month, make a note and remember to get screened. We are happy that we are building partnerships with the labs, for instance, and they're willing to offer
seeing that.
discounts during, particular
Awareness months.
months. So it's an opportunity to take advantage of those. And even if we have these arrangements with the labs, there are also health facilities you can go to. So if you're saying, well, funding and I can't afford or whatever, you can go through the public health system
Yes.
to get certain screenings done, certain basic screenings done. We can't wait until you feel, and then we feel a symptom and we begin to self-diagnose. We think this may be the reason that is feeling uncomfortable, or that other thing may be the reason, and we don't go in a timely manner to get screened and to get diagnosed. We keep putting it off. Maybe fear, I don't know. So yes, there are major concerns that, based on what we're seeing, many are waiting for some sort of symptom.
Right. I'm such a proponent of screening and regular screening. A personal story, and I don't think I've ever shared this on Health Vibes, but it was in 2010, I believe. I did a pap smear. I was always iffy about pap smears before that. 2010, so that's that's 14 years ago now. And on that pap smear, I had some irregular cells that were
Right.
identified, and I had that treated for cryotherapy. And a few years later, well, I did, continuous repeat pap smears. A few years later, I saw the cells again. They came up again. I had cryotherapy again. So I've had cryotherapy twice. And in 2024, my last pap smear, it's clear, and it has been clear for a few years. So, when I think back of that, if in 2010, I had not caught that, or if in the following years I had not caught that. I remember when those cells were found, my gynecologist at the time had said, it's just some atypical cells, but this can, in 10 years, become cervical cancer. It's been 14 years. So can you imagine, without that screening, and it was just regular screening, I could have been a cervical cancer patient at this time. So it is so important, that concept of taking screening seriously. And I like the indication, the comparison of, you have your annual things that you do. And a lot of us look forward to the birthday this, the carnival this, the Creole festival that, and we have plans for every year, certain things that we must do. Include the screening in that,
Right.
what you must do. And another personal story is I'm turning 40 next year, and I've already said, I've said my mammogram has to come on that 40th birthday. I don't know. I don't want to say it's not paranoia, but I just feel it's a milestone age,
Yes.
that this is the recommended age. So I'm going to start at that age,
Yes.
and you've indicated people are being diagnosed before that age.
Right.
So it's not strange to say, the 40th is coming up. Before I plan the birthday party, let me plan what is my screening schedule for that new age.
Right.
That I am now entering, that if God gives me the opportunity, that I will be. So yeah, so screening, I'm so passionate about regular screening and taking up the call to screen as advised, because it can prevent so much.
So much.
Mhm. Mhm.
And truly, that's such a good point that you've raised. I mean, just sharing your own personal story
Mhm.
may just as well encourage someone to do so, because we've all heard the cliche: "Your health is your responsibility."
Mhm.
And oftentimes, what we find is that we seem to be so busy running after money. We make the time to make the money. We make the time to devise strategies how we can make more money and accumulate more material things, and often not recognizing that without that health we can't make the money.
Mhm.
We can't sustainably make money. And so it is important that every one of us, whether you're male, gender, female, find out what are the prerequisite tests that are, needed to be done at a particular age, and follow suit and do those tests, because you'll be amazed some of the things that are picked up. I've shared my own story too, of getting a pre-diabetic reading in 2020, and was totally shocked, because I'm like, I'm looking well, I'm slim and trim, I'm doing all of these things. But what it did for me, as much as I know that there is a family history of the disease, but at the same time, it made me objectively do a health and wellness audit of myself and recognize what are some of the precipitating factors that may be causing my glucose level to spike. And I found out that I was really sedimentary. As much as I may consider myself a slim person, but I was quite sedimentary. And that's when I took up running as my sport. And it's now 4 years that I've been running, and my numbers came back to normal.
Right.
So it's important to do the screening, recognize where you know what you're seeing, but at the same time, not just look at it pessimistically, but look at it as, what can I do to have the numbers improve? So yes, you might be thinking or considering, I'm so young, I'm asymptomatic, I've not shown any symptom, my breast feels normal, and all of that. Why should I? And we often ask ourselves
Right,
that question:
sure.
why should I, have it checked? Why should I? And the reason you should is because you may just be in the very small proportion that may show no symptoms, but something is indeed happening.
Mhm.
And so, hence the reason why it is important for you to have the screening done.
Right.
For you to have the screening done.
Mhm.
What we're going to do, we're going to take a short break, and then we're going to switch gears a little, because we have a survivor,
Yes, that's you.
and we want her to share her story.
Mhm.
When was she diagnosed? What prompted her to get a diagnosis, and how she dealt with the diagnosis, as it may have related to treatment and recovery. So stay tuned, as we'll be right back with you on Health Vibes.
Introducing Jolly's Pharmacy, brand new website. www.jollies.tm. It's your time to jump the line. Shop now at jollies.tm and have your items delivered in the comfort of your office. No more standing in line. No need to use your lunch hour to shop. Hassle-free shopping. Safe and secure. Jollies.tm features rush delivery 1 hour. In-store pickup, regular delivery 5 p.m. Cut-off time 4 p.m. It's your time to jump the line. Visit us at www.jollies.tm. Jollies Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Who say health cannot have vibes? Well, Jolly's Pharmacy is proving you otherwise. With Health Vibes, every Wednesday morning on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Health Vibes, education, information, and a bit of humor. And not forgetting lots of vibes. Hosted by Carlton Lango with co-hosts Jacinta Fagan Defoe and Trudy Kristen. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing health and vibes together every Wednesday, so be sure to tune in. Health Vibes every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
I woke up this morning feeling real stink. I had temptations to call it sick, but I end up in Jolly's Pharmacy. And down in the street, Jolly's fix up my immune system. Me feeling fit and strong now, I'm ready to work and make on any mission. If you see me again, Jolly's Pharmacy is number one. Jolly's working. We cater for everyone. Jolly's working. Boost up your immune system. Jolly's working. Yo, Dominic is the white water box. Whenever I'm in town and I'm feeling down, I head to Jolly's Pharmacy. They boost me up real quick. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Who say health cannot have vibes? Well, Jolly's Pharmacy is proving you otherwise. With Health Vibes, every Wednesday morning on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Health Vibes, education, information, and a bit of humor. And not forgetting lots of vibes. Hosted by Carlton Lango with co-hosts Jacinta Fagan Defoe and Trudy Kristen. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing health and vibes together every Wednesday, so be sure to tune in. Health Vibes every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
So we're back with you.
Yes, we're back with you here on Health Vibes, and of course, we have promised that in this discussion about breast cancer, that we will be speaking to a survivor. It's always good to hear the first-hand experience of someone. You can talk about things theoretically, this is what can be seen, or this is what you can expect, or this is why you should do this. But the experience of someone who has actually fought and survived is so critical. And we have Debbie with us this morning, and she has so bravely decided to share her story for our listeners on Health Vibes, and I applaud her for that. What I think I want to ask in you starting to share your story is about your thoughts prior to even becoming a breast cancer patient. Your thoughts about the disease. Did you have any, thoughts about it before? Like we just spoke about people being exhausted from hearing about certain things. Before you even had to deal with this, did you have any thoughts about breast cancer at all?
Absolutely none.
Wow. Wow.
None. Never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that I'd have to deal with breast cancer.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I was in the shower and very noticeably felt something irregular.
Mm-hmm.
And that was no big deal. I thought I just had a lump. I've heard of people removing lumps, and I just never thought of cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Never. So I had the lumpectomy done. It was removed. And I'm going back to have stitches removed, and cancer is not on my mind. That was a Saturday morning. So I went, and it was our dear Dr. Paul, and he said, come and sit down with me. I'm still not thinking nothing. And he said, I've taken off the stitches, but I need to tell you that we found cancer in the sample. Okay.
Mhm.
And that's when I began thinking, cancer. Now, you think that cancer is a death sentence, so that's what I thought right away.
Right.
That is death for me. But he reassured me it was stage 1. He reassured me that we can get that. He said, I'd advise if you have family overseas, go get it done quickly and let's do that. So that was Saturday morning. I went home and I told my eldest daughter about it. We cried and we prayed. Cancer.
Mhm.
And that was in November. And by the 24th of December, Christmas Eve, I was already in the US.
Mhm.
I had gone to just get rid of cancer. I had written my letters to my kids because I'm going to die.
Mhm.
I told everybody how much I love them, and I left my kids with my in-laws, and I went to the US. And when we saw the doctor, she's amazed that she cannot find any cancer cells. They did all of the tests and they couldn't find cells. But that's because it was just a month prior that I had removed the lump.
The lump.
It had not spread. It was stage 1 and they couldn't. But she advised, because of the sample that I brought up, it looked quite aggressive. She said, let's go ahead and do chemo. Let's go ahead and do your process of treatment. And in my stubbornness, I said, no, if you can't find the cancer, why should I put the poison in my body? And why should I? And why should I? And I came back home. And 18 months later, right on the spot where I had the lumpectomy, it started growing. And this time, it was growing at a rate like every morning you got up, it's bigger. Every morning, every morning, every morning. So I went back to the US. And by the time I was ready to begin treatment, it was nearing on stage 3. And that was within not even a full 2 months, every morning. And so I know what it's like to see the orangish red color. I have seen that, and to see this thing literally just grow. And so now I'm thinking it's death. Yeah. So anyway, we quickly went on chemo. We had 8 rounds, and visibly it was now reducing. Visibly, I had very good treatment in the US. So that by the end of the 8 rounds, immediately we had surgery, and then immediately after surgery, 1 week after, we did the radiation. And it was like a miracle for the people in the US, because in between, I came home and I began having herbals and sours and stuff, but a lot of soursop for some reason came my way, and I consumed a lot of that. So that when I went back, I was asked, have you had any chemo in Dominica? And I said, no, the only thing I know that I really consumed a lot of was soursop. And so now they're eager to know what is soursop. Let's find out what's soursop and that sort of thing. And that worked. Okay, so it's now 14 years on, but is it now 4 years? 4 years, 10 years later. 10 years later, so I had mastectomy on the right breast.
Okay.
And 10 years later, I began to feel another lump on the left. And this time, early intervention.
Saved my life. Saved
I
my
didn't
life.
waste any time. It was removed. It was just, it couldn't even quite be staged, but cancer cells were found. And so that was removed, and it's now 4 years on, and I am on medication, anastrozole. I take that every day.
Yes.
And so far so good.
Wow, that is a very deep story, because one, I heard fear. 2, there was some form of denial.
Reluctance.
And yes, and it's almost like I let go myself and felt, okay, the initial treatment was it. And then 4th, the symptom came back and even more aggressive. But then you were smarter.
Yeah.
Right.
You were smarter. You don't take
Yeah.
any chance.
Don't take any chance. And I think too, if you educate yourself as to what's happening within your body, you find out how is the treatment going, what should I expect, what are the stages, what I should, so you can now have a convo with your health personnel and say,
Right.
can we do this? Is there an alternative? What else can we do? Because in the US, they give you the chance to
Dialogue.
to dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I had an oncologist and a surgeon, and me and my husband sitting, and one is saying, take it off. Let's do another mastectomy. The other one is saying she really does not need to. It's estrogen led. Let's put her on an estrogen.
Yes.
And they are both arguing. And so I had to say, okay, let me put my piece in. I'd rather let me go on treatment and let's see how it's been working. And they're amazed. They are amazed. But you need to be able to have information yourself to be able to dialogue
That's
and
true.
to have an input in your health status. Just this morning, I was speaking to a young lady who just had her second round of chemo. And she said, when I went in, they said to me, we're doing 4 rounds and afterwards we'll assess you
Right.
and do surgery. And when she went for the second round of chemo yesterday, they're saying, we're now going to let you do 8 rounds. That was a stage 1 lump, and she is well informed, and she was able to say to them, no, I am not going to do a whole 8 rounds. The thing has already reduced. It's now 1.8 in size. I am not going to do 8 rounds before surgery. Let's do as we planned, and let's do 4 rounds and assess it at that time and do surgery. So sometimes, because you are so afraid, you allow your health personnel to just determine what's going on with your body, what's going on with you. You're not informed, and you just want to live. But you need to be able to know what is about, because I tell you, on the right side, I think I could see it moving. You go to sleep tonight, and tomorrow morning,
It's
The
growing.
thing is bigger.
yes. And that red color is a truth. It is a truth. And so I began researching. And you don't have to be afraid. I am a believer, and I trust God to have healed me. And I believe, because at the end of it, my doctor said to me, Debbie, you being in front of us, I never thought you would have lived.
Wow. So based on the aggressiveness of the cancer and what but in reference, because one of the things that a lot of us may sometimes neglect is the cost that's involved
Oh, it's a lot.
with cancer.
That is where I give God praise, because I was in the US. I did not have health insurance, nor did my family members have health insurance. But I went online in my research. I went online and I found a couple places. I put in my situation and I said, I just need to have a second opinion. And that was on a weekend. And on Monday morning, I found a letter in the post box that says, well, come in, let's see if we can help you. And it was at the biggest hospital in Chicago, the Rush University Hospital. And I went in, and right away they began treating me. They did an aspiration, and by the time I got home, they said this is big enough that we deal with it right away. By the time I drove home from the hospital, they had the results of the aspiration, and they said, come back in tomorrow. Let's start treating you. So I went and I said, well, let's start treating you, but I don't have the money, I don't have the resources. And I was given a form to fill in, like not
Yes.
a form, it had about 5 pages
Yeah.
to fill in. And all I could put was my bio, my name, my age, my whatever. The rest of it about if I have health insurance, I couldn't fill that in, and I couldn't tell a lie, and I want to be healed, and I just crossed them all the next 4 pages, and I hand it in. And the next week I got a letter that said, we're offering you 100% charity care.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I got that for the whole year. So I was walking into one of the biggest hospitals in Chicago and getting this kind of treatment. I got everything possible. And then the next year I got another year. So I got massages. I'm telling you the minor things, because you will know that I had the surgery free. I had the medicine free. I got transportation to gas to put in my vehicle. I mean, it was just for, I don't know if it was just for me. And I thank God for that. But that is how
That was a blessing.
that was a super, super, super blessing. And so
Awesome. We're getting some messages online here. Julie Polido, Wednesday blessings to all. Martina Roy, who is a constant. Good morning, watching from, where is that? I can't see.
Somewhere in New York.
Somewhere in New York. I see we have Natalie Simon. And she's saying that she's a bit sad because she She has, I think, two family members who are suffering with breast cancer right now. So we pray for that family. We have Samuel Alexander. Good morning, watching from St. Croix. Love your program. We want to say good morning to you and thanks for watching. But your story is really, really compelling. And oftentimes, and that's what we're saying. And I think just yesterday I was listening to another program where an insurance agent was really promoting health insurance and asking, young people to really, consider, whilst you are young, consider taking a portion of your salary towards health insurance because it
Yes.
really can come a long way for you with the unknown, regarding the unknown. And so here it is that you're saying that it had to be God's favor
It had to be because
at that stage.
I had worked in high places. I had salaries. But I just never had an insurance. Never did. So I approached one locally before I traveled, but at that stage they were not going
They
to
would
help,
not give
right?
it, yeah.
But I went to the US and I got God's favor.
Mhm.
So now, this is great advice that young people should, because it's not going to happen that way for everybody.
Right,
Right,
right.
Yeah,
And that's critical,
it is.
And there is only so much the Cancer Society
Right.
Can do. Can
Right,
do.
right.
can do in terms of funding.
Yeah.
And so it's important that we all should really invest in our wellness.
Mhm.
Again, that's why we're here screening.
Mhm.
That is,
Yes.
we cannot get away from the screening. A doctor
Mhm.
cannot just look at you and say and diagnose you with breast cancer. There must be a biopsy that has to be done to confirm that it is cancer. Yes,
Mhm.
the signs and symptoms can indicate that this is the disease, but at the same time, you have to go through the protocol. Again, we're saying that breast cancer, like many other cancers, may not necessarily show signs and symptoms.
Mhm.
We're hearing about this new,
Yes.
is it a new type?
Inflammatory.
Or
Yeah.
It's not new, but it's becoming more more prevalent.
Yeah.
Inflammatory breast
Right.
cancer.
So that as
Mhm.
well. And so we just have to really be mindful. Many women sometimes, um, I don't know if it's a case where, it's just this notion that it cannot be me.
Hmm.
I'm too young.
Right.
We sort of categorize ourselves and we sort of give it character
Right.
in terms of why it shouldn't be me.
Me.
But
Mhm.
ask yourself, what if it's me? What if it's me
Mhm.
that experiencing that particular symptom
Mhm.
and truly needs to get this intervention, this diagnosis done, confirmed, so
Mhm.
that I can know what my options are in terms of treatment, in terms of the possibility, in terms of your pro, prognosis. That's
Prognosis.
what I'm trying to
Mhm.
get.
Yeah.
Mhm.
In terms of your prognosis, that is very, very important.
Mhm.
Yes, sure.
No, I was just going to interject that you see the whole thing of it cannot be me is the sort of thing that we try to deter people from thinking when people think
Mhm.
you must do something wrong for something for a health
Something-
condition
Yes.
to land on your
Yes.
account.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, as we said over and over, that is not the case.
Yes.
It's not every health condition or it's not every disease that is preempted by a particular thing action of yours. So sometimes people say, I didn't do this or I didn't do that, or I would never get that. That's them, that's not me. That is the type of mentality that leads to the it cannot be me thinking.
Yes, because I was vegetarian all these years.
Mhm.
Wow.
Mhm. Mhm.
I was vegetarian. I worked with the Ministry of Agriculture, so I was out in the bush and in the fields, very active,
Mhm.
very, very active. And I just thought, I just
It
never,
couldn't be.
I
Right.
couldn't be, couldn't
And-
be. And I'd never had any kind of interaction with any cancer person or anything.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I just knew cancer was a killer.
Mhm. Mhm.
And there was I in all my health, young enough. I was 50 at the time.
Okay.
Wow.
Okay. Right. Yeah. And I like to when I when we have these discussions, to try to allow people to take off that blame mindset when it comes to health.
Right.
We all people try their best, and certain things happen. It's all about the how you deal with what happens. And as we're saying, the early intervention, being proactive. I like how you spoke about having that information, doing your research, and being able
Right.
to dialogue then with your practitioners as it relates to care. I like to tell people you have to be the CEO of your health. So you
Yes.
think about
Yes.
what it is. It's not about this cannot happen to me, but if something happens, how do I deal? How do I empower myself to now be able to deal? And it's all about being empowered. It's all about being empowered. So several things you said was so empowering, and I hope people really take heed from this conversation. I did have a question though, Debbie, just my curiosity. You said you had 8 rounds of chemo. I've never known exactly what a round of chemo entails. It just, when you said 8 rounds, it just seems like a lot to me. So I don't know. I know the chemo process, a lot of people say it's so horrible, you get so
Right.
sick and so on. What does 8 rounds of chemo
Okay.
mean?
All right. First of all, chemo is not as bad as we make it sound.
Okay.
For
For you.
That's what my kids said to me. You must stop saying that, Ma, because that was your experience. But yeah, it is intravenous,
Mhm.
and you would sit for about 2 hours, and 2 bags of whatever is the cocktail that they have
Mhm.
is being inserted into
Into
you.
you.
If you do it on the veins, it will tend to sometimes give you a lot of pain and soreness in here. But in the US, they put in a port in here. So I have a
Okay.
little scar, and I had this port plastic thing in here, so that
Okay.
whenever they injected it, it was just going straight into the port and
Ah.
going to my body. That
Okay.
was a little surgery, and it went in. And you would sit there lay down very comfortably, and you go through your drips, as we call it. And 2 days later, you would probably be very sick because the body's now receiving a lot of strong poison. And I had 8 back to back to back. But guess what? I never got sick. I never vomited. And I tell you, God,
But
I
you lost your
tell-
hair.
Hmm?
You lost your hair.
I had my dreadlocks, very nice, beautiful
And you
dreadlocks
lost- you
down there.
lost-
And by round 2, I got up one morning and I just touched Harry, and the thing came out. I said, what?
Oh boy.
So I called my husband. You know what? Just take that off, because I cannot take the trauma of getting up and hairs on my pillow.
Fall
I
in,
don't-
so you
yeah.
just
So
cut it
we
off.
just shaved that off. And even after we shaved it, the very little bit that was there, it's still. So I had completely shiny bald head like you.
Mhm.
Yeah. But the chemo tends to make people sick, nauseous, and stuff like that. But they used to give me a drug to take into the tummy the next day. I don't know if that's what
Help
what's
with
it
the
called?
symptoms.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I ate well, I worked, I was raking leaves, I was doing everything. I didn't have the strength that I normally would have had, but it didn't put me down.
Okay.
I was able to do all of it, and 8 wrongs because it was that bad.
And when you say 8 rounds, was it weekly or
Every week,
every week?
Every week.
That is why every
Wow.
week.
Mhm.
Every week, because they wanted to get to that thing. And they before I go into, I was saying to the lady this morning, they would measure and see how quickly this lump is being reduced. And every week it was going down, every week, until it shriveled like a prune, and I had the surgery right away. But the chemo is just getting your drips, getting your
drug they
medicine,
make.
the
Okay.
drug. It's a
Okay.
cocktail that they mix. It's a poison.
It killed the cancer cells.
But
Yeah.
it
Killed
it.
other
It
cells
kills
too.
it. Because had I chosen to go natural completely, I don't think it would have been so effective.
Especially
You
the
would have-
aggressive
yeah.
form that you had.
Yes, you would have to I don't know. You have to kill it first, and then you can start treating your body, rebuilding the body with natural stuff.
Let me just give the lines, the numbers,
Yes.
that just in case you may want to call and make a contribution or ask a question. The numbers are 449 3095, 449 3096, 449-309-761-64257. And of course, you're welcome to interact with us if you reside outside of Dominica. That number is 305-432-9624. And so these are the numbers just in case you may want to ask a question or you may have a misperception of something and you want to get some clarity, you are welcome to do so. We have a survivor, Miss Jajak, and we have the president of the Dominica Cancer Society, Miss Alexander, here with us this morning. I wanted to ask you, though, Miss Alexander, in reference to, because I know that you do a lot of one-on-one education with people, particularly ladies with breast cancer and so forth. When you meet a young lady who would have gotten a diagnosis and maybe crushed, psychologically. I see we have a caller, but I want you to kind of walk us through as to the dialogue. What are the
Okay.
questions that they're asking, and how do you respond? That type of thing. Let's take this caller.
Yeah.
Good morning to you, caller. Thanks for calling.
Hello, morning.
Good morning to you, sir. Good morning.
Yes,
Ask your question.
actually, I was just
Mhm.
calling is a beautiful story by Debbie there.
Oh yes.
It's amazing, what the divine intervention could do.
Mhm.
They're listening to this story. But I think, first of all, let me just say that this program, this Jolly's program, is wonderful in terms of public education as it regards to health. Because I believe that public education has to be done on a continuous process.
True.
You see, not something, because I get the impression that some people don't understand that even the whole question of statistics, and I want to just congratulate Yvonne on this work which she's been doing with the Cancer Society. But the statistics must always be there to help to deal with the problems. And you see, from the statistics, this is where you work towards the policy. And the Cancer Society cannot function on its own. It has to have very strong collaboration with the Ministry of Health and the Statistical Division. Because every single piece of statistics is important to help with the way forward. You need to solve problems not of today, but based on what you're seeing today. That will enable you to set up strategies and approaches to deal with what is to come. And I believe, we have to pay more attention to the generation of the data. And then you work from the data. But I must say that this program this morning is very useful. And the thing is, you see, people listen to those political things. They don't mind taking it on every day. But you see, public information insofar as health is concerned is extremely important. And time has to be dedicated to that.
Thank you, caller. Appreciate that.
Good, okay.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
comments.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I think Carlton was asking me a question, but I just want to make a comment on what he said. As a matter of fact, the Dominica Cancer Society has developed a strategic plan. Now, in crafting the strategic priorities for the organization for the next 3 to 5 years, we wanted for it to be informed by the real situation in relation to the data, the statistics, and so on. And this is part of the reason that we put forward in writing to certain Ministry of Health officials requesting that the information be made available to us so that it could inform our strategies.
Right.
What type of educational programs, where should our focus
What do
be
you
and all that.
target?
So
Yeah.
he's quite right. He's quite right. Right now, our strategic plan is on hold Still awaiting. We have the bare skeleton, a lot of info, but still awaiting the updated statistics so that it can inform some of the strategies, our action plan for the next 3 to 5 years. So we're still hopeful that we will receive the information at some stage. It's been a while since we are asking for it. I actually said we are probably going to just send the letters back out again to all who it may concern and hope that he comes forward with it. In relation to the question by Carlton about what do you say to someone, first of all, I think being survivors helps a lot. So in the first instance, anyone who approaches me and that's the situation and they're afraid and so on, I reassure them by telling them in the first instance, I'm a survivor. So this is survivable. So don't necessarily just think that you're going to die because you have this diagnosis. And then we sit them down and get an appreciation of what their situation is, be it financially, also support-wise. Who is at home with you? What kind of support do you have? What kind of support network do you have? See, should we be assigning one of our members who are trained psychosocial supporters to accompany the person and just help them. Sometimes they want basic information about what do they do next, because there's a little bit of disconnect in relation to how referrals are done. There are little hitches in our entire system. So we help them to navigate all of this. And when I say we, a lot of the work is done by people other than me.
Yes.
Because we have Nurse Angie, who is head of our hospital support team, who does a lot of the coordinating with some of these individuals. We have the staff at the office. Our admin assistant does a lot of the work, Sunny Abraham. And we have a survivor who is actually volunteers 3 days at the office. So sometimes that particular survivor is present at the office and can sit and talk and listen, because it's a lot about listening.
Yes.
See how the people feel and all of that, and then determine, what this is who we are, this is what we do, and how do you see us assisting you, that kind of thing. So we do a lot of reassuring. We do a lot of telling them that we have been there,
That helps.
and that kind of thing. It helps a lot that they see somebody who has survived right in front of them. Hey, let's discuss
Gives
your
hope.
situation. You can survive this because I did. So yeah.
Yeah. I think giving hope is important,
Yes.
to give that reassurance. Yes.
You spoke
Definitely.
briefly on men with breast cancer. Based on what you've seen, about how many men have you seen breast cancer?
I'm familiar with about 3 in Dominica at this time.
Wow.
There are 3 men where I'm not sure if there are more, but I am personally aware
Familiar
of
with
3.
free.
There is a particular individual I have actually spoken to on a few occasions. Told him I would make him anonymous if he would agree to just come. All they would hear is his voice. Who knows his voice? And he's a bit shy. He's
Okay.
still radio shy and all of that. We're hopeful that one of those days, because it's been some years now, that particular individual, I hope he's listening. I'm going to come at him again because we want men to appreciate that while we focus a lot on women, because I think the statistics normally show
More
that
prevalent
sometimes
in
it's
women.
very much more prevalent in women. Over 90-something% of breast cancer cases would be women, but you have a small percentage of men who also are diagnosed with breast cancer. And so we want to also encourage men to do things like breast self-examinations, because they can do mammograms. They're flat chest,
Right.
but there can be lumps. And if men feel a lump, they too must present themselves to a healthcare provider who can determine whether there's need for a biopsy or something, and ensure that they get the necessary treatment.
Good information. We have another caller. Good morning to you, caller. Thanks for calling. Good morning, caller. Thanks for calling.
Good day, Carlton, and to your guest studio and Dominica.
Good morning to you, sir.
Carlton, it's a very, very informative.
We're hearing you
program,
very.
and I think
Can you maybe speak up
Okay.
closer to your phone or something? Are you there?
Is that be better?
Yes,
Yes,
this is
yes.
better. Yes.
Yeah, what I'm saying is that it's a good informative program. But I think we Dominicans and the gentleman that earlier I talked about statistics. Yeah, it's good to take statistics, but you have been ailing with one of the conditions. Statistics is not going to help. We got to find out what is going on. Because from when I was a little boy growing up, we never had those things going on. Mostly elderly used to pass away. Now, I mean, I follow MO News, and it's like to the point I'm like shaking my head. The amount of young people, I'm talking about in the 50s, 60s, that's passing away from all different type of ailments. So you wonder what is they doing now that we didn't used to do before. We used to live longer life before. And I think it's the import of a lot of stuff, and we don't know who manufactured the food and what chemical and preservatives they have in the food. And I'm not, due to respect for your program and 295, I will not call no one's name. But I think we take, we trust and eat from foreigners instead of eating from our own people. We eat feeding from foreigners. Foreigners are feeding us unlike our own because our people will see to that they take care of us. And a lot of the foreigners, which I won't call them, put stuff like MSG in their food. And that's very cancerous. And I think we should take a stand on that. But also, each one and everyone is responsible for their health and their children's health. And the other thing I always advocate, the chlorine in the water. Not everyone have the same blood type, so it might affect people differently. But that chlorine is deadly in our water, and we should come together and come to the government and find a way to abstain from putting chlorine in our water. And I know individuals in the states, in their community, that they rally with the government, say they don't want chlorine in their water. And because of who they are, it's a bunch of mostly predominant white folks. And they don't, if chlorine was that good, they don't have chlorine in their water. So why we subject to that? So we have to look at those things there, and we are responsible for ourselves and research what is going on because too many people are dying from cancer. And who knows who's next? One day you might just feel ill and go to the doctor and doctor say, this is what is going on. But I think more of our people should cleanse and detox their body. Because you have a car, you take the car to the shop for oil change, fuel filters, gas filter, oil filter change. Your body needs a cleansing. Even every 6 months, we got to cleanse our body from all the toxins that's going in our system.
Thank you,
We
Colin.
have to do that.
Thank you.
I'm listening.
Thank you so much. We're just about out of time here. Sorry that. Let's just take this last caller before we go. I recognize that someone is going to call again. Let's see. Good morning to you, caller. Thanks for calling.
Morning.
Good morning to
Good
you, sir.
program.
Good morning.
Your health is your wealth.
Yes.
Yeah, some people, it's like they're more into material things, but to say, well, take care of the body and eat the right set of stuff and move on, and because all them things can cause a lot of stress. A lot of stress can give you cancer and different types of sickness. And not only that, there's a lot of young guys, that's going and drink a lot of rum and all this kind of thing. I don't say they drink your thing, but you're taking that advantage on that. So you have to be careful of how you run yourself, what you're doing, how you're moving yourself around, and then things gonna be fine. You just have to you have the faith too as well. Yeah, all the best, man. Have a blessed day, man.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much. And again, he just
I
resonated.
appreciate
The fact that again, our health is our greatest resource. We have to preserve it. We have to do everything in our power to ensure that it's sustained, that it's optimized. And again, as we focus and we close on talking on breast cancer, let me say to you that again, you may not experience any symptom. All right, you may not always experience a symptom, but if you do recognize or feel a symptom or a sign that something doesn't seem right with your breast, again, feel free to have that checked as soon as possible. Look at it as almost as a personal medical emergency for yourself because early intervention can save lives. Let me just give a few just listen to the just give them a few, maybe just about half a minute to close. Give their parting
Closing
words.
remarks.
The half minute to close is to say to everyone who is listening to us about being proactive,
Mhm.
about taking responsibility for your health, about making just a medical checkup part of your annual calendar of activities. And when you're doing this medical checkup, include everything. The same way you do blood work for diabetes, hypertension, for everything, just include everything. Include the pap smear, include the breast self-examination. Make it like a whole, but a part of your annual calendar of activities. Of course, there's always the lifestyle changes we don't like to hear about. So we have to be selective in the things we eat, in the things we drink, and do some be active, whatever that looks like for you. You don't have to go into a gym. A simple walk, a simple 30 minutes walk a day can help a lot. So this is the advice. Of course, there are other issues like taking care of your emotional and psychological well-being, trying to manage stress, because I don't know if we can say
Eliminate
well
it,
do
no.
without stress
I
or whatever.
don't.
Manage your stress, but importantly, we do a lot of things annually. Be proactive. Make an annual medical examination part of your calendar of activity every year. Thank you very much for listening, and the Dominica Cancer Society is there to support and to assist.
Very well said. Debbie?
Just appreciative of the opportunity to share my experience and to tell everyone that you can thrive after surviving cancer. I've thrived for 14 years, and that at the Cancer Society office, we have a group of trained psychosocial supporters that will do that kind of one-on-one with you and reassure you that cancer is not a death sentence.
Thank you so much.
And we truly appreciate your presence here today. We felt that particularly your testimony and you telling your story was very, very informative. Many people said so online, and we just want to wish the society the best. We know that it's a tough fight. We know that, and we want to encourage as well companies to donate to the Dominica Cancer Society. If you're here and you're looking for a charity that you can support, feel free to stop by and make a little donation to the Dominica Cancer Society. They do have, I think, boxes and donation areas in some of the institutions in town and elsewhere. You can feel free to make a donation. Every dollar counts, particularly when that the bill as a patient comes to you and you recognize, where am I going? And that becomes a bigger headache to the patient. So again, all of us are in this fight together. Each one strengthens the other. From all of us here on the studios, at the studios of QFM, we're saying goodbye to you on this episode of Health Vibes. And as always, your health is indeed your greatest resource. Preserve it. Have a good morning, everybody, and continue taking care of yourself. Bye-bye.
What is pharmacies proving you otherwise? With Health Vibes, every Wednesday morning on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Health Vibes, education, information, and a bit of humor, and not forgetting lots of vibes. Hosted by Carlton Lango with co-hosts Jacinta Fagan Defoe and Trudy Kristen. Jolly's Pharmacy is bringing health and vibes together every Wednesday, so be sure to tune in. Health Vibes every Wednesday on Q95 from 10 a.m. to 11:30. Jolly's Pharmacy, leading the way in healthcare.
Easy Rock 95.1. More rock, less talk while you work. The latest soft rock, hit after hit. Tune into Easy Rock 95.